everyone, and welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's very quick tutorial, we're going to be going over a small sewing project that adds a big pop to any bag. Today, we're going to be talking about fancy straps. Fancy straps. So, fancy straps are just another way to do a crossbody strap. I prefer to use webbing, but you could use anything. If you have a material like a cork or vinyl or quilt cotton even, and you made yourself the double fold strap, and you wanted to add a little extra detail to the bottom, today we're going to talk about how to do that. So today we're going to walk through a 1.5 inch fancy strap option and also a 1 inch fancy strap option. If you would like to use the templates that I'm using for these, I have a few different options for you. One is going to be a downloadable PDF and SVG zip file. That's going to be over on Shop OklaRoots. It's under Sew for a Cause. If you do the printable, this is what it looks like right here, and you're going to have printable for all the pieces. You're going to have printable for the quilt cotton and vinyl versions of the 1 inch and the 1.5 inch straps. So we're going to go in detail what all these little bits are. There's another option if you would like to use templates. We have a template set, so it's a set of 3 for the 1 inch. So it's going to be the larger set here, which is for the quilt cotton. Again, I'm going to show you what all this means in just a moment, but this is for the quilt cotton version. This is going to be for your stabilizer and or your vinyl version, and then we have little tiny edges here. These are just little rectangles with rivet placements to kind of help you wrap a little bit on the raw edges of your webbing. Totally optional. We also have the 1.5 inch set of 3 template sets. Also, I just wanted to, I'm trying not to confuse you, I promise, but if you did buy the basics bundle from us, which is sold on Shop OklaRoots, that has the rounded corner template, both ID windows, and then it also had the bonus 1.5 inch main fancy strap template in it. If you got that and you're like, well, I don't need another one of these, but I would like the other 2, these 2 are also sold on their own as a set of 2. So the 1.5 inch option is just a little different because you can buy it either as a set of 3 or just as a set of 2 if you already have the stabilizer vinyl piece. I know that's a little complicated, I apologize for that, but that's how we have this set up in the shop. So you have 3 different options here, 3 different ways to do it, and then we also have the SVG file, so if you'd like to use your Cricut or your Silhouette cutting machine and just drag those in and have it cut out, you know, your vinyl for you automatically, that's another option. All right, so let's just talk about the fancy straps for just a moment. We have the vinyl cork raw edge version. So this here, you can see it has raw edges on the sides. You can edge coat them if you'd like. This is really going to be great for material, again, that you can have raw edges on. I wouldn't use this for quilt cotton, cotton lycra, anything like that. This is, again, for a raw edge material. The straps consist of 2 pieces of webbing, a shorter piece and a longer piece. We'll talk about sizes in the tutorial. And then 2 swivel hooks on the end here. The swivel hooks are going to be the same size as your webbing. So if your webbing is 1.5 inch, you're going to use the 1.5 inch template. And you're going to have 1.5 inch wide swivel hooks. You're also going to have a rectangle ring and a slider, an adjustable slider. So this is the vinyl version, and then we have the quilt cotton version. And so the quilt cotton version looks exactly the same. The only difference is you're going to cut a bigger piece of material, quilt cotton, anything like that, material that frays. You're going to cut a bigger piece of that, and you're going to wrap it around a piece of Decovil Light, Decovil Heavy, some sort of a firmer stabilizer. You're going to wrap it around that, and then you're going to sew it on just like you do the vinyl version. So it's a very, very simple change. I'm also going to be using rivets today because, again, I love using rivets to put down these strap ends. You can see on this one here, I did not use the little vinyl piece to decorate the end of it. So you have a lot of options here. You can make this as blingy as you want. You can make it as simple as you want. And then we also have the 1 inch version, which is very, very cute. So it's just a little bit smaller than the 1.5 inch because 1 inch is just a little bit smaller than 1.5 inch. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the 1.5 inch version using a vinyl, and then I'm going to walk you through the 1 inch version using a quilt cotton. And I'm going to show you the benefits of the templates and how it helps with pattern placement, specifically for the 1 inch version. If you'd like to go check out these templates or the downloadable PDF, I'll have links down in the description down below. If you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shout outs, anything at all, leave it down in the comment section. I've been talking about these on social media for a little bit, and I've already had quite a few suggestions on adaptations to this, different types of hardware to use, different types of measurements to use, so that maybe you could use this strap in so it goes from a 1.5 inch wide webbing down to a 1 inch piece of hardware. There's lots of discussion going on. So if there's anything you'd like to see, leave it down in the comments below. These are, we're calling them the rounded fancy straps. So if you guys like these, we can definitely come out with other shapes. One thing I really like about this is that this would be great if you're embroidering. So let's say you have a very small embroidered design. You can embroider it on a piece of vinyl, piece of quilt cotton, whatever you'd like. And then you can use the templates to lay over that, trace it out. And so whenever you're done, you can have a really cool embroidery design right here on your fancy strap, which I think would be really cool. So again, The rounded look is probably the easiest, but we can definitely explore more shapes if you guys are interested in that. All right, guys, let's make some fancy straps. Okay, so let's talk about these straps first. Here are the 1.5 inch options. So you're gonna want your webbing to be 1.5 inch wide, as well as all your hardware. And your hardware, again, is gonna consist of 2 swivel hooks, a rectangle ring, and a strap slider. Could you do this with fewer hardware? Most likely. Could you do this with different hardware? Most likely. I'm gonna show you how to do it with this hardware. This is the look I really like, personally. Again, I've literally bought straps from another company that look exactly like this because I like it so much. So this is the look I like, so that's the look I'm gonna show you. But we're gonna go through 2 different versions. Today we're gonna go through a vinyl version, so this is raw edged material, and you're going to go through a quilt cotton version as well. Both are very simple to make. They just prep different, but then application is the same. So I'm gonna walk you through that, and then you have the exact same options for the 1 inch version, so you can use, again, a cork or a vinyl or a quilt cotton. And just to show you size difference, you can see that the strap ends for the 1.5 inch are quite a bit bigger, but again, that's because the width of the material justifies it. Having something this big on a 1 inch wide webbing, it would just be a little too much. So the proportions I feel like are really nice. So this is, again, you can do a lot with this, and you can get very creative. This is specifically great if you have a certain type of material and you have pattern placement, like you have like a little doggy or something, you really want it to be on the strap. This is perfect for that. Or if you're gonna be embroidering, heat transfer vinyl, super fun way to customize a really kind of like not thought of piece of a bag a lot. You know, we don't always think so much about the strap, especially someone like me who just wants to get it done with. So like I said, there's a few different options if you want to use my template. So one option is to just download this and print it off. So that's probably the quickest and easiest option right now, is just go on, download this, cut out the pieces you need. They're all marked for either 1 or 1.5 inch, and then they tell you what they're going to be used for. If you think you're going to be making a lot of these, or you just don't really like printing and cutting things out and then trying to keep track of it, we also have the option to buy the templates. You can buy the 1.5 inch set or the 1 inch set. The 1 inch set is sold in a set of 3. Same with the 1.5 inch, but a lot of you probably already have this template if you bought the basics bundle. So if all you need are these 2 extras, you can buy those separately as well. Okay, so before we get into each strap, let's just talk about the basic tools I'll be using for pretty much all of these straps. First, I like to use rivets to attach the raw edges of the webbing, and I'll show you, I'll give you a couple options to do that. You don't have to wrap a little piece of material around it, but rivets are just easy to attach. If you'd like to sew it instead, you can, but I like rivets. I'm actually not going to be attaching any rivets to the strap ends, the fancy strap ends. You can if you'd like, but I'm not going to. So for that, I need a rivet press and a hole punch for my rivets. Next, I have some Beacon 3-in-1 glue. This is especially helpful if you're using the quilt cotton version, or even if you're using the vinyl cork version. You can set your strap ends in place first before you sew it, just to make sure they don't move around. The thread I'll be using today is a Tex 45 weight thread. This is going to go through the needle. In the bobbin, I have a Mara 100 weight thread. The needle I like to use is a Microtex 8012. I have a stiletto to help keep everything in place while I'm sewing. And then I have a vinyl marking tool. This is mostly for placement for the rivets. A lighter to clean up any little loose threads, and then a 1 inch by 6 inch ruler. All right, so the first strap we're gonna do is the 1.5 inch wide strap, and we're gonna be using vinyl for that. I have this really fun, super shiny vinyl. So I have that vinyl. You need a very, very small piece of it. Honestly, you probably just need like a 5 inch by 5 inch cut of vinyl for this. So I have my vinyl for that. I'm not using quilt cotton, so I will not need to use the larger quilt cotton strap template, but I will use the little strap end piece as well. So I'll just be using these 2 templates for this. Then I have 2 cuts of webbing. One cut is 11 inches long and the other one is 28 inches long. This will give you a finished strap at its longest, because it is adjustable. At its longest, it'll be 36 inches long. This is a good standard size for me. If you want this to be longer, I suggest adding length to the longer piece here. So you can add another 5 inches, 7 inches, however many you need. Add it to the longer piece. And you can always play around with these measurements as well. If you want to make this a lot shorter, this a lot longer, go ahead and do that. Have fun with this. Then I have all of my hardware here. I have a strap slider. I have 2 swivel hooks, and I have a rectangle ring. All of these are 1.5 inch wide. Again, I have my templates. You don't have to use the acrylic ones. You can use the printable ones. And then I have a cut of Decoville Light. Now you do want stabilizer for this. For this version with the vinyl, we don't need to use a template to cut our Decoville Light. We can just cut a small rectangle. I like to cut my Decoville Light to be about 1 inch by 3 inch, so you're gonna need 2 of those to go with your 2 straps. You could use Decoville Light, Decoville Heavy. You could use fusible fleece. You need to use something firm though. Woven interfacing, craft fuse, I don't suggest those. Something a little bit firmer, because remember, this is gonna hold the strap to the hardware, which then holds it to the bag. So if you have a heavy bag, all of that weight is gonna be on these right here. So you need some support. Okay, so first things first, I'm just gonna be tracing out our strap ends. Now, since this is just a little mirror material here, I don't have any pattern placement, so you can trace this on the front or the back. And I'd like to just quickly go around this. Now, when you're tracing the vinyl, you do want to be more precise. When you're tracing the quilt cotton version, which we'll do next, you don't have to be super precise with tracing this out, but with the vinyl version, you do want to be pretty precise with this because it's all raw edges. And then I'm going to trace out 2 of my little cover-up pieces. And then I'll just grab some scissors and I'm going to carefully cut this out. I usually like to cut out a chunk of the material like that and then cut it out. I just find it easier. And just be gentle as you cut it, especially if you're doing the vinyl or cork version, because again, these edges are going to be left raw. So if they're too wonky, it's going to be noticeable. Also make sure you notice that these are rounded straps, but they are not like a rounded rectangle. They do taper down in the center. So the width along the center here is more narrow than at the end. That's intentional. All right, so there's one. So you see when I fold it in half, isn't that cute? Ooh, that's gonna be so shiny, so pretty. All right, so I'm gonna continue cutting out the other strap end and then the 2 cover-ups. And as you can probably already tell, this is a fantastic scrap buster. So if you've got scraps from a bag that you're working on, this is perfect for it. Create a matching fancy strap to go with your bag. All right, so the first pieces I'm actually gonna add are the cover-up pieces. I find this is just easier installation-wise if we do those first. So all you have to do is fold this in half, and you're just going to take one edge of each of your straps, and you're going to wrap it around the end just like that. If you want to use some glue here or some double-sided tape to hold it in place, go ahead and do that. I think I will actually use some double-sided tape because my strap is pretty thick. So I'm just going to add 2 pieces of double-sided tape to each of these along the long edge. So then I can just take the paper off of these pieces of tape and then just wrap this around the edge. Make sure it's covering both sides completely. There we go. And if you also want to use some clips, go ahead and grab some clips just to hold it in place. So there's the cover up for the long piece of webbing. I'm going to repeat that for the short piece of webbing. All right, now if you'd like, you can sew along these edges at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, top stitching, back stitching, making sure it's nice and secure. Or you can use rivets, which is what I'm going to use. So I have my little template here, and I'm just going to line up my cover up template with the edge of the cover up over here. And I'm going to mark placement for my rivets. And I forgot to show you the rivets whenever we were showing the material, but I'm using a size medium. These are from M-Line bags. These are 9mm by 8mm rivets. So using those marks that I just made, I'm going to carefully punch those out using my hole punch. So after you have the holes punched in this little cover up here, don't add your rivet just yet because we do have to wrap this around a piece of hardware and then add the rivet. So right now I'm just punching the holes. This is also why tape is really good because since I taped this down, I don't have to worry about it moving. So I'm gonna repeat that with the other cover up over here, just popping the holes through the cover up material and the webbing. All right, let's start with a smaller piece of webbing over here. With the webbing and the rectangle ring, you're going to just take the edge with the cover up, push it through the rectangle ring and wrap it around. Let it overhang about 1/2 of an inch, whatever you're comfortable with. Really for me, I'm just tucking it in so that the cover up piece is just coming right up to the bar and it doesn't feel too bulky. So once you have it where you like it, now you're gonna grab your hole punch and you're going to just put it right back in the hole you already punched on your cover up piece so they can go through the other side of the webbing. And I like to do this one at a time. Once I have that, I'm gonna take my rivet, I'm going to insert it through this. So now it's going through the cover up, the edge of the webbing, and then also the back piece here. And then I'll add my cap. Honestly, with this webbing, I probably don't even need to punch a hole in it because it's like a woven webbing, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then add the second rivet. And there you go. Now you have the short part all ready to go. We just have to press that, and then we'll attach the swivel hook and the strap end over here. So I'm just going to grab my little small rivet press here and press this in place to hold it there. So you can put the short webbing to the side, and let's grab the longer webbing. And this one we're gonna attach to the strap slider. So here's my strap slider. I'm going to insert the cover-up edge along one side from the bottom, up over that middle bar, and then down the other side, just like this. And just like I wrapped it around the rectangle ring, same thing. I'm gonna get it pretty close to that middle bar. So you see it's wrapped around the middle bar here. Line up the edges, and then using the holes you already punched, punch into the other side of the webbing. And again, I like to just add one rivet at a time because I feel like that way I don't have to worry about it moving around on me. So then repeat that for the other hole here. And it's just easier if you do this step first versus doing the strap-ins first and then attaching it all. It gets a little complicated then. Once you have both your rivets popped in there, grab your rivet press and just set them in place. All right, now take your long piece of webbing and just set that to the side. We're gonna work on the strap end for the short piece first. All right, now we're gonna work on the little strap ends here. So take your fancy strap ends and lay them wrong side up. Again, this is just for the vinyl bit. We just want a little bit of stabilizer to help reinforce these. So I'm just gonna attach these 1 inch by 3 inch cuts of Decovil Light centered on the back of my vinyl. Nothing too fancy, nothing too complicated here. Again, if you want to use Decovil Heavy, that's perfectly fine. If you'd like to use fusible fleece, that's also fine. I wouldn't use just a small piece of quilt cotton or craft fuse even. I would use something a little bit more sturdy because these strap ends will get a lot of work. So now grab your short piece of webbing and you're going to take one of your strap ends and also a swivel hook. Thread the strap end around the swivel hook so that the center part here wraps around the straight bar. So it should look just like this. So cute. And then all you have to do is just marp, 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 nom nom, chomp chomp over the end of the webbing, just like that. And if you'd like to use glue here, if you'd like to use double-sided tape, use whatever you need to try to get this straight, because the hardest part about this is making sure that the back and the top line up so that when you sew it in place, you know, you don't sew here and then miss it on the bottom. So do whatever you need to do. Folding it in half for me seems to work pretty well, and then just clipping it, do what you need to. Okay, so now pay attention to wrong side, right side. I consider this edge here that has the folded over cover up the back side. So this to me is the front. And so with my thread, this is the top stitching top thread here. If you don't have a preference, then don't even worry about it, but I do. So I'm gonna make sure when I top stitch this in place, I have this side up where I don't see the cover up over here. I'm gonna use a zipper foot and we're gonna top stitch around all the edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, except by the bar. When it comes to the bar, I'm gonna use that zipper foot to just get nice and close to the bar over here, but not touching it. Don't risk breaking your needle or anything like that. I do like to backstitch at the beginning and end of these threads as well. And I'll also leave the threads very long so that I can tie them off. Okay, so here's how it looks top stitch. When I'm top stitching, I go very, very slow. Very, very slow. But like I said, I leave all the tails nice and long, and I'm gonna pull the bobbin threads on the back side here up, and then I just tug on it until I see my top thread kind of loop up on the back, and then I pull the top thread to the back. Now, sometimes you can pull and pull and pull, and that top thread does not come back at all. That means it's pretty much already knotted in place inside here between the two pieces of material. In that case, just cut the thread, you're fine. It's not going anywhere. But this is why I backstitch a little bit and I knot it just for extra security. Okay, once I have all 4 threads on the back, I'm just gonna go 2 and 2, and I'm gonna do a triple knot, nice and tight. And then just trim down those threads close to the knot. And then, oh so carefully, I like to pull the material away from that little knot. I grab a lighter and I'm just barely touching it, just booping the little threads so that they kind of melt in on each other. But if you do it too much, you're gonna burn your knot and you're gonna kind of ruin the whole thing. So you gotta be very, very careful with that. Okay, so now this strap end is attached, and we're gonna repeat it with the other side, except first we need to attach the longer piece of webbing to the rectangle ring and then attach the strap end. So to do this, take your longer webbing and lay it so that the cover side is up, so the back side of the slider is facing up. Grab your shorter webbing and lay it so that the right side is up. So again, if you have the cover up on the back, you're gonna lay it just like this. Keep everything straight. Take the raw edge of webbing and slide it through the rectangle ring just like this. So this is what it should look like. And then slide it through the top left edge of your slider, over the middle bar, and over towards the other end. So now your strap should look just like this, where you have the right side or your preferred side on the shorter edge here with your strap end already in place. Slide it over, we see the right side of the slider, and then we have the raw edge here waiting for its swivel hook. So now we're just going to repeat attaching the swivel hook to this strap end just like we did on the other side. So take your fancy strap piece here, wrap it around the straight part of your swivel hook, fold it in half, get it the way you want it, use glue if you'd like, and then chomp down. Chomp down on the edge of your strap, center it. You should have a little bit of overhang on the top edges here of the rounded fancy strap. And then I like to use clips to hold this in place. But again, if you'd like to use tape or glue, that's going to give you a more precise finish because nothing's going to move around. With clips, it is possible that this will shift while I'm sewing, and that could be a problem. There we go. So now get that slider out of the way. And now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to just top stitch right around this edge just like we did at the other one. 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and as close as you can get to this bar. A zipper foot's going to be easiest for this. Look at how stinking fancy this strap is. Isn't that so cute? Yeah, it's simple, right? It's taking me a lot longer than it would take you because I'm blabbing on, but it's so simple. So just like I did on the other side, I left my tails long. I'm just going to pull all the threads to the back and then triple knot it, burn down the threads, and that's it. Okay, so there is our 1.5 inch wide vinyl fancy strap. Very simple, very, very cute. If you'd like to add rivets here, you definitely can. I think that when it comes to like survivability, I think the stitching is fine because you are going to be going through a good amount of the webbing on the sides, the bottom, and the top. There's not a whole lot of stitching that isn't touching webbing, so you have a lot of reinforcement here already, and I like the clean look of just this, you know, no rivets. But especially if you have a fun rivet, like they have rivets that are shapes of things, go ahead, put some rivets here. Maybe you could just do like, you know, like maybe if you're making like a snowman themed or a Santa themed bag, you could do like little black rivets right here to be like little buttons, and you use like a red fun. There's a lot of fun you can have with this. So that is the 1.5 inch option. Let's move on to the 1 inch. All right, for the 1 inch option, I will be using all 3 templates for this because I'm going to use my fabric piece, and then I'm going to use my stabilizer piece here, which is also the vinyl piece, and then my little cover up. So for the cover up, I will be using a scrap piece of cork. You don't have to use the cover up at all. You could just rivet the ends or sew them and not have a cover up at all, but I wouldn't suggest quilt cotton for the cover up. It needs to be bigger. It'll get too bulky folding it all over. Just use a piece of scrap fabric or vinyl, or if you don't have that, just skip the cover up entirely and then just sew it or rivet it in place. For this, I'm going to use a piece of quilt cotton. You're going to need about a 4 inch by 4 inch cut of quilt cotton, unless you're going to be fussy cutting. I'm going to try to fussy cut today using my templates. We'll see how that goes. You're also going to need stabilizer. You have to have stabilizer if you're doing the quilt cotton version. You might be able to get away without it with vinyl, but if you have quilt cotton, this is not thick enough material to support an entire bag. You got to use some stabilizer. I'll have Decoville Light. Decoville Heavy is also great. Fusible fleece is great as well. I have my 2 cuts of my webbing, one 11 inches and one 28 inches. I do have a glue stick. This is going to be really helpful. Any type of glue stick, but if you have a fabric glue stick, it works. And then I have 2 1 inch swivel hooks, one 1 inch rectangle ring, and one 1 inch strap slider. So this is an adjustable crossbody strap. And then I have a pack of rivets. These are medium size, 9mm by 8mm. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just cut out my stabilizer. So I'm going to use the rounded fancy strap template. So this can again be used for cork, vinyl, or your stabilizer. And I'm just going to trace this out. Now you do want this to be as precise as possible because this is going to be the resulting shape of your strap. So you need to make sure that this is not all wonky. Trace it neatly and cut it neatly. All right, so there are my stabilizer cuts. I can set those to the side. Now we're going to work on the quilt cotton. Now here's the thing about the quilt cotton. You don't need to use this template here. If you have just the 1.5 inch version of this from the basics bundle and you really don't know if you need to buy the extras, you don't need to. You can just cut this out using this template. You just need to make sure it's bigger than it. That's all. If you want to be more precise, then we have this option here. And if you have the template, you should notice that there are some dashed lines on the inside of it. That's going to be for this. So it gives you the finished size because the rest of this is a seam allowance. So I'm going to use this and those dashed lines to help me see figure out what I want to do. I think I'm going to do a little Hades right there. So I'm just going to trace this out using any sort of a fabric marking tool. And like I said, if you didn't have this bigger template, that's okay. You just can use the smaller template and just trace bigger than that smaller template. There's that one. And you know I'm looking for Ursula. Where is she? She's got to be on here, right? Oh, I found her. Okay, we found her. She's over here. Hey, Ursula. I think I can fit you, girl. Yeah, I think I can fit Ursula in. So I'm going to trace this out to try to get her in there. All right, that's going to be a fun strap. Now I'm just going to grab my fabric scissors and cut these out. And if you're like, oh my gosh, you're cutting out something in the center of that piece of fabric. I know, that's how fussy cutting works. Fussy cutting is pretty wasteful when it comes to material. But again, you can always use the scraps for other things. But yeah, a lot of times with fussy cutting, you are cutting in the middle of a piece of fabric. And you don't have to be too precise when you're cutting this quilt cotton out, because we're just going to wrap around these edges anyways. So if you're not cutting right on the line, that's okay. Okay, so now we have our stabilizer and we have our quilt cotton. And the next thing we want to do is, I'm just going to flip over my quilt cotton. I can still see my image on the back. And I have my smaller stabilizer cut here, and I'm just going to kind of center this so that I can see through my acrylic and I can see through the fabric, so I can still see the design. And I'm just going to gently trace around this on the back side of the fabric, and that's how I know exactly where to put my stabilizer. It's a little extra step, probably not necessary, but it's helpful for me. So I'm going to repeat this with the other one as well. I just really want to make sure that the items that I fussy cut show up where I want them. All right, once I get that where I want it, I'm going to take my deck of the light and lay it so that the glue side is down. I'm going to lay it on the back of my material. I'm going to give it a quick press from the back side, and then I like to flip this over and give it a good press from the front. With quilt cotton, stabilizer just fuses better if you fuse it from the right side of the quilt cotton. And I'm going to repeat that with the other strap end. All right, now that those have their stabilizers glued on or fused on, now we're going to get a glue stick, and we're going to just add some glue around the seam here. Now this is a 3/8 inch seam, especially for the 1-inch strap. You might find that's just too cumbersome. You can always trim down, especially these top edges here, if you feel like it's just a lot of fabric and it's just folding in on itself a lot. You can just trim down the corners up here, the rounded edges. So see, I'm just going to go around, and I'm just wrapping the material around my stabilizer cut. You can see when I go around these corners here, I just do one bit at a time, just kind of folding it over itself. It's totally fine if it all starts piling up on the back like this and ruffling, as long as it's on the back side. I mean, no one's going to see that, so just get it in there and glue it in place. If you need to add more glue, go ahead and do that. If you want to use double-sided tape, you can do that too. Whatever is easiest. All right. So once I get that in place, I'm going to fold this in half, and look at that. Look at that guy. That's funny. So now I like to just look at the front again, and if I see any bits that are just kind of messy, I'm going to undo it and then smooth it back out. Take your time with this. It can look really sloppy if you rush it, but it can look really clean if you take your time. And then I'm just going to add a couple clips on this so that it doesn't come unglued. There we go. And I'm going to repeat that with my other little strap end here. These are cute. Look at my girl. Doesn't she look good? She looks good. Yes, she does. All right. These are done now. These are pretty much now can be used just like the vinyl or cork version was in the first part of this video. So I'm going to set these to the side. And now next up, I just need to trace and cut out my little cover-up pieces. All right, so now we have our cover-up pieces, we have our little strap ends, we have our webbing. We still want to use this for rivet placement, rivets, and hardware. We are ready to build our strap. So we're going to repeat the exact same process we did for the 1.5 inch. I'm going to walk you through it because I got to do it anyways. So once again, we're going to start with the cover-up options first. I do like using the double-sided tape for this. And this one, you're going to actually be double-sided taping the shorter edges. So the shorter edges are the 1-inch wide edges. You're going to do those ones. So just a couple small pieces of tape along each short edge of each cover-up. And then you can remove the paper from the tape and then just wrap it around one end of your short webbing. And then repeat that for one of the ends of your long webbing. All right, once you have them taped in place, I'm just going to layer over my template and use my marking tool to mark in the little dots here so I know where my rivet placements are supposed to go. And you don't have to punch the holes now. You can wait until after you wrap this around your hardware and then punch the holes. I just find it easier to do it now. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm using those little dots that I marked to punch holes for rivets, but we're not adding the rivets yet. We're just punching the holes for them. And then again, if you don't want to use rivets, you want to stitch this instead, you can definitely do that. You could stitch it and add rivets, whatever you feel comfortable doing. All right, so let's start with the shorter webbing. Grab your short webbing and grab your rectangle ring. And you're going to just insert the cover-up piece into the rectangle ring and then wrap up your cover-up around the bar, just like that. And I like to just kind of slide it up as close as it'll get without the cork piece kind of riding up. And if you're not using a cover-up piece, you're just using the material, then just fold it over. Let's see. How much is this folded over? Fold it over by 3/4 of an inch. So 3/4 of an inch, fold it over, and then sew this in place or rivet in place just like this. So I'm going to grab my hole punch and I'm going to just insert this into the holes I've already punched. And just like I did before, I'm going to use one at a time. So I'm going to grab one rivet and insert it into that hole. There we go. So you can see it's through both sides of the webbing. I'm going to repeat that with the other hole. Just punching it out. And then inserting the other rivet through all the layers. And then I'll grab my rivet press and press this in place. So there we go, the short webbing is prepped. You can set that to the side, and now let's do the longer webbing. So grab your longer webbing and your cover-up edge, and then grab your slider, and then take your cover-up edge, put it up one side from the bottom, go up and over that middle bar, and then wrap it around. And then once again, just tug it down by about 3/4 of an inch or so, and then sew it in place, or re-punch out the holes, or punch out the holes for your rivets. And then just grab your rivet press and press your rivets in place. See how, I mean, this is so quick, so easy. I love it. So now that we have that done, we just have to do our strap ends, which are the fun part. So let's start with the short piece of webbing. I'm gonna lay this right side up. So the cover up is the back side. So laying it right side up just like this. That's important because I did fussy cut. So this is my right side. You can see the other side doesn't have a whole lot. So this is my right side. I'm going to grab my swivel hook, and then I'm going to thread my fancy strap through it so that it wraps around the bar, down on the bottom bit there. There we go. And then if you'd like, you can grab some glue and glue both sides of this and glue it to your webbing, especially with the fabric because you don't want any of this to move around. Or you can tape it, or you can just use clips. So I'm just going to again just chomp, chomp, chomp on the end of my webbing. Make sure everything is lined up. And I'm going to use clips here. I like to get my webbing very close to the bar of that swivel hook. You might have to readjust to center it sometimes. That's okay. There we go. All right, once I have that in place, I'm going to top stitch around all the edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm using a zipper foot here, and I'm going to get as close as I can to the bar without hitting it. And I do back stitch at the beginning and the end, leaving the tails of the bobbin and the top thread long. How cute is my little Ursula? She's so cute. All right, so now I'm just going to use the bobbin threads to gently tug and pull the top threads so I can see a little loop and pull the top threads to the back. And then I take all 4 of those threads on the back side and I'm going to double them up and triple knot them and then cut those threads nice and short. And if you'd like, and you can be very, very careful, grab a lighter and just boop, boop the tails of that knot. Not the knot though, don't burn the knot. And there you go, now it's nice and secure. It's so cute. All right, so now let's finish up the strap. So lay your short webbing right side up, just like this. Grab your longer webbing and lay it so that the cover-up side, so this is the wrong side, that's facing up. Keep your strap straight. Grab your end of the webbing that doesn't have anything on it. Insert it into the rectangle ring on the top here and up and over. So this is how it should look. Again, the short edge is right side up. The webbing is coming up through here. Pull up your slider here, insert the webbing on the left side, up and over that middle bar and out the right side. So this is what it should look like now. You have the right side of your strap, you have your rectangle ring, you have your slider, And now you have your remaining end here. So grab your fancy strap cover and your remaining swivel hook. Insert the fancy strap around the bar of the swivel hook and wrap around and line up all the edges just like that. Again, if you want to use glue or tape, go ahead and do that. And then just insert the webbing. Make sure you have the right side. There we go, right side up. Insert the webbing and center it. And then stick, glue, or clip it into place. And now we're going to top stitch around this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, getting as close as you can to that bar. And once again, I left the tails long so that I can just pull them all on the back side here and knot them and clean them up. And there you go. Check out your cute little fancy strap with your little villains. This is so sweet, isn't it? It's so much fun. I hope that you guys, I hope that this brings you joy. I do. If you participate in this, I hope that it brings you joy. And I hope that especially if you're making these to gift to someone that you love it. All right, what do you guys think of these straps? Look how pretty this is. Isn't this pretty? I'm not gonna put it in a bag, but look, isn't that pretty? That's a good, oh my goodness. That's a good looking strap, isn't it? So fancy, so fun, so quick, great with scraps. And then here is the 1-inch one. Oh my gosh, with my little villains on it. That is so stinking cute. I love it so much. So I hope that you love making these, however you choose to do it. If you decide to use the printable, if you decide to use the acrylic templates, if you decide to use your own shapes, I hope this is super fun. This is something that I've been kind of working on for a couple of years now. If you've been on social media with me for a while, you might have noticed 1, 2, 3 years ago, I shared this project that I was playing with, and this is with embroidery. See, it has embroidery on it. It's the same type of thing. The measurements are a little bit different, but it's the same type of idea. The rectangle ring, the fancy strap, the swivel hook, and the embroidery. So there's a lot you can do with this. A lot you can do with this. This is a much more complicated project, but if this is something you guys would like to see on the channel, let me know. We can go over smaller embroidery designs, and then we can create bigger templates to accommodate them. And if you want to do, like, this is one that goes from a 1.5 inch wide webbing to a 1 inch wide swivel hook. If that's something you're interested in, just let me know. Let me know. I love templates. Obviously, I love templates so much that I bought a laser and I make my own. And now I sell them to you guys if you want them too, because templates are super helpful. So if there's different, we can do a lot with these. Let me know what you're looking for. So I hope you love making these as much as I do. I hope you're having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's tutorial. I hope that you are inspired to go make something and have a lot of fun with these patterns. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure you click subscribe down below. Also, make sure you hit that little bell, the little notification bell. That's going to make sure you're notified every single time we have a new video or when we go live. For even more fun content from OklaRoots, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. We do daily stories over there, which include unboxing, talks about books, other little mini tutorials, lots and lots of discussion over all kinds of things going on. You can also find us on TikTok and also on Reels for even more fun, kind of more random content. And if you really want to dive in for some behind the scenes content, free gifts, access to shop items before anybody else, and influence on upcoming videos, make sure you go check out OklaRoots over on Patreon. We have a lot going on over there and it's a fun place to hang out, and you are directly supporting the OklaRoots YouTube channel. These videos could not be possible without the help of my patrons. So thank you so much to everybody over there. Thank you again for watching today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy the videos. Go make something.